Welcome back to not really lecture number 2. Sorry for the delay. I'll try to not let that happen again. So last week we started with the org slides. How can you attend this course? How can you participate in the exam? What are exercises and all the other boring stuff? Then we started with introduction. We did not quite finish that, so we'll do that today. And then we will not go into climate change as promised last week, but rather go into environmental pollution and resource scarcity, because when I tried to fit the stuff that we left out last week with what we had planned for this week, we would have probably ended up with a 2.5-hour session, and most of you told me that you would rather like to participate in the math tutorial. So here we go. Climate change is going to be next week. So we ended up last week with the 3 main challenges of the 21st century. There are maybe some more, but if we don't manage to get the climate change part ready, if we do not manage to deal with environmental pollution, and if we do not solve our resource problem, then you don't really have to worry about a great career, having kids, or anything else, because those are among the essentials that we have to deal with. Otherwise, everything else is quite pointless. So it's not a complete list, but it's a quite urgent list. And if you follow recent news, or if you even make the mistake and watch some advertisements, then you can get the feeling that all of those things are not really a problem anymore, because we have a broken pointer, because we have electric cars. They're going to save us. If everyone switches from internal combustion engine cars to electric vehicles, then everything will be fine. If you all start to stop using plastic stuff, then everything will be fine, especially if you are using plastic stuff and then also recycle it. If you just plant a few trees, everything will be fine. And if you just make sure that everything goes in the correct trash bin, everything will be fine. That's the main story that you get when you Google anything related to sustainability. When I was looking up some sustainability definitions or concepts related to sustainability for those lectures, one of the main advertisements that I got as the first thing that you can see on Google was from the Abu Dhabi oil company that was promoting whatever they are doing as the most sustainable thing you could ever do. And without claiming that they are greenwashing, it very much felt like greenwashing what they were doing there. Because if you're burning dead dinosaurs, you're probably not on the green end of what our planet is looking for. So all of those things, I'm not saying they're bad, but if we switch just all internal combustion engine cars to electric vehicles, we still have too many vehicles because all of them need to be produced. All of them need to be powered by some kind of electricity that has to come from somewhere. And part of the lecture series is going to be, okay, how can we maybe get away from this? I want to have as much as possible. I want to consume as much as possible. And the goal of society and economics is supposed to be selling as much shit as possible to what do we actually maybe need? Because do you need 5 cars, or is 1 car enough? Maybe 2, 3, but do you need 5? Because that's the point of our capitalistic economic system right now. There is never the question of what is enough. You need a new iPhone at least every year. It's better if you get one every 6 months. You need at least 1 car per year. You need at least 1 house. Would be good if you have something like a vacation summer home. And if you have a summer home, why not having a winter home besides your normal home? So there's always this, like, there's never enough. There's a minimum that you have to consume, but there's never an upper limit of how much you have to consume. And a lot of those supposed solutions are rather trying to substitute one way of consumption with another. The electric car is not going to save our planet. It's only going to save the automaker industry. It can be one building stone to be less harmful, but just driving a Tesla is not going to do it. So this is still a problem. We haven't solved those problems yet. And if you think back at what we discussed last week, you can feel a little bit like, okay, all the stuff is going south. It's not really a pleasant thing to live through. And some of you have already seen the teaser lecture to that, might remember this quote from a NASA scientist at the Goddard Institute, Kate Marvel, who is like a very famous speaker for various types of sustainability, climate change related topics. And for one of the conferences, she was asked to give something, not a keynote speak, but more like a wrap up of a nice conference, where she was supposed to say something positive, something that gives all the people hope who just participated in this conference, that was more or less saying, we're on a really bad track. Climate change is a big thing. We're not doing really a lot. Environmental pollution is still there, and all the other problems that our society endures. No one really tackles them. But since she got this like question quite a lot, at some point she was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that again. And the next few slides are a few quotes from her pertaining to this particular problem and how she deals with this and how she found a solution for herself to deal with these rather unpromising outcasts for our future. Because it can feel like, okay, everything is going south anyway, so why should I do something? Why should I care anymore if we're going to die anyway? And she said, as a climate scientist, I'm often asked to talk about hope, particularly in the current political climate. Audiences want to be told that everything will be all right in the end. This is essentially just drive a Tesla and everything will be fine. Just recycle plastic, everything will be fine. Just eat vegan, everything will be fine. Climate change is bleak. The organizers always say, tell us a happy story, give us hope. The problem is I don't have any. We're inevitably sending our children to live on an unfamiliar planet. But the opposite of hope is not despair. So don't think that, okay, there's no hope. I'm just going to put my, like, what are these weird chickens called with a very long neck that put their head in the ground? I don't know the English word, but in German it's Strauß. Don't put your head in the sand. Even while resolving to limit the damage, we can mourn. And here, the sheer scale of the problem provides a perverse comfort. We are in this together. The swiftness of the change, its scale, and inevitably binds us into one. Broken hearts trapped together under a warming atmosphere. So a little bit of an emotional statement here, but the important part coming now. We need courage, not hope. Grief, after all, is the cost of being alive. Courage is the resolve to do well without the assurance of a happy ending. And that pretty much sums it up. You can sum it up in, you are here anyway, and if you don't want to jump out of this window right now and kill yourself, you can also do something to make it better. There is no guarantee that you, or more importantly, maybe your children, will have a life worth living. But if you don't do shit, nothing is gonna happen. That's pretty much the short summary of what she's saying. You can put your head in the ground and understand whatever this phrasing is in English, but if you don't do stuff, nothing is gonna happen. And that's pretty much also one of the takeaway messages of this lecture. You can say, I don't care about environmental pollution, climate change, and other stuff. I want to just have a successful career. That's fine. I'm not gonna judge you for that too much. You can also say, look, there is not really a point in doing anything. Also fine. But if you ever consider this idea of having children, or, I mean, you're 10 years younger than me, of living past 2050, you might want to do something, because otherwise it might get rather bleak, as she already told us. So, once again, those of you who have already seen the teaser lecture might know the answer to that, so I would like to ask those who already know the answer to maybe just input random numbers, or at least not spoil the number online, and ask you how many people or what percentage of the society do you need to make a difference? Because you could think, okay, like if not 100% of the people participate in all of this, then we're not going to make any meaningful difference. Maybe it's 50%, because this is the usual number for computer scientists, that you need to change something within a consensus mechanism. Or is it less? Is it more? What's the rough percentage that you think that you would need to change society with some kind of a peaceful protest or civil disobedience approach? So no guns, no weapons of mass destruction, no terrorist attacks, just civil peaceful protests. Five more seconds. Once again, anonymous poll, and there we have it. Okay, I still struggle with this new format at BBB of presenting results, which is quite unintuitive. So, one person suggesting 30%, two persons suggesting 100%, and then we also have one person each for 20 and 10%. 100% seems to be a little bit too much because usually you have governments and things that you can do without convincing 100% of the people because the majority often rules. 10, 20, 30% is at least below the majority vote, and that is often quite sufficient. But all of those are still magnitudes away from the value that has emerged from scientific research. Professor Erica Chenoweth has conducted a study on more than 300 violent and non-violent protests that occurred in the last 123 years. And she came to the conclusion that 3.5% of people being so fed up that they start to take actions are sufficient. More, obviously, is helpful. Like if you have 10, 20, 30, 100%, that obviously helps. But 3.5% seem to be sufficient. That doesn't mean that as soon as you have 3.5%, you're winning, because this is just statistics and based on past protests. So you do not have a guarantee that 3.5% is sufficient, but 3.5% is not that much. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 people in this room. So if I get 3.5%, it's even less than a person in this room. So I have to just get one of you to become a radical climate change, environmental pollution, sustainability activist. So now we have one person more that somehow lowers my chances a little bit, but still, like I need one person from you to become a very active person to do something. Not sure how many people we have online right now because I cannot see that, but it's not that much because that one person becoming a multiplier, you're talking about that. That is also one of the reasons why, despite the fact that so many people hate Extinction Rebellion for gluing themselves to the street, for spray painting buildings and private jets, or throwing potato mash and tomato soup on paintings that are protected by glasses, so they are not really like damaging the paintings itself. But so many people hate them. But still, without them doing that, we would not have this conversation about them, about climate change, without having the idea that this is still connected to sustainability. They're among the most hated people on this planet, or especially in Germany, but we're still having this conversation. And this is part of being part of the 3.5% here. So do something. Doesn't have to be that much. And you also have a legal support, because in the Grundgesetz, or the German basic law for the Federal Republic of Germany, you have the Article 20a that essentially gives you the right for a future worth living. It's not like it's an ideal, a moral or ethical idea. It's in the fucking Grundgesetz. You have a right for a future worth living, and you can demand it. In English, it says, mindful also of its responsibilities towards future generations, the state shall protect the natural foundations of life and animals by legislation and in accordance with law and justice, by executive and judicial action, all within the framework of the constitutional order. Or in German, der Staat schützt auch in Verantwortung für künftige Generationen die natürliche Lebensgrundlage und die Tiere im Rahmen der verfassungsgemäßen Ordnung durch die Gesetzgebung und nach Maßgabe von Gesetz und Recht, durch die vollziehende Gewalt und die Rechtsprechung. You have a right for a future worth living. Demand it. And don't let them just do the shit that they're doing right now. So it's not just about becoming active for the sake of moral or your own hobby. You also have a legal responsibility here. And part of this course is to do something. if it's going to be protests, if it's going to be starting some kind of a thing that helps towards sustainability. Most of you are digital technology students, so there's probably a dimension of digital technologies in combination with sustainability related progress. But do something. You are the people who are doing it. Your grandparents are not going to do it. My grandparents are not going to do it. They are sitting down and saying, look, I had a quite difficult life. I'm not going to do anything towards sustainability, so you have to do it. So first of all, in this course, we're going to talk about the three main challenges that we stipulated. Then also trying to enable you, but also to engage you in doing something, because it's your future. Otherwise, you can just call it a day. And also, of course, from the educational perspective, giving you an understanding of the causes, dimensions, the characterization of those challenges. For example, what is climate change? What's the difference between climate change and weather? What's the definition of environmental pollution? What are the different types of pollution? How can you prevent it? What's the problem with dwindling non-renewable resources? How can we prevent them? We're going to talk about the circular economy as one concept towards solving some of those issues. But part of it is also going to be, how do you critically assess available solutions? How do you tell apart greenwashing and proper solutions that might help you? Because especially in the digital technologies context, there's a very thin line between greenwashing nonsense and actually stuff that can help us to have a better future. And also, as I already said multiple times, do something. And it's all in line with the overarching theme of the TU Clausthal, because the goal or the theme is actually the circular economy. What that is, we'll learn in this course, but it addresses all the three key challenges that we highlighted so far. What this course is not, a comforting fairy tale of everything will be fine, just do whatever you have done so far. Let's do business as usual, that's going to be fine, just buy a Tesla and everyone will be happy. You might have noticed that from my attitude so far. This is also not going to be a soothing high definition TikTok video, even though we're trying to record high quality videos, not just me running left and right in front of camera, but also more professional stuff in front of our green screen. And we're also not going to discuss whether climate change is real or not. It is, thank you very much. So this is what the course is not about. What this course is about, we discussed the content and the educational parts, and also what I would like to give you is to provide you some kind of an idea or a strategy based on the content that we teach you here. So I don't want to be too prescriptive in terms of you have to push a circular economy, or you have to go towards a circular society, or you have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm more interested in teaching you the concept and you trying to figure out the best that you can do given the knowledge that we gave you, because I'm also not a genius. I might get stuck here in this position, but I'm not a genius. I don't know how to save this planet. I have some ideas, but I'm not claiming that I have all the ideas in my head. So developing a strategy on how you can do this is going to be part of this course. And the strategy is turning resources you have into the power you need to get what you want, or in other words, your goal. And a strategy is essentially something that gets you to your goal. Power is a technical through which you can turn your resources that you have, time, money, knowledge, impatient, into your goal. And then you need the resources to do that. And that's pretty much the end of the introductory session of this course. So by now, I hope that we were able to communicate what the problem is, or what the problems are, what we want to achieve with this course, and what we hope you take away from this course after, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 lectures. I don't recall the exact number. That's pretty much the introductory session.